I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Brenda Lawrence, and Brenda is a Vistage chair from the Washington, D.C. area. She is a founder, company founder. She is an accredited coach, which we'll definitely have to talk about, and has worked in a variety of industries prior to being a Vistage chair. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric, for having me. And congratulations on the start of this podcast, Chair World Waves.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You have got I have to call attention to this because I'm looking at the bio, and there you have got so many credentials, and not only so many credentials, but so many cool credentials that I was not even aware of that existed. You're credentialed through the International Coaching Federation, which is very
Yes.
cool. You've got a CIO certification from the National Defense University. You've got credentials from Harvard and University of Pennsylvania. You like school.
Well,
It
one of
sounds
the
like.
so I tell you, and I think, being in the Vistage community in general, you would probably speak to a lot of chairs who are, continuous learners. And that's always been like the biggest thing for me is really staying in front of the things that I love and how it is that I want to show up as a leader. I think it gives me the opportunity, one, to speak from a place where there's some, research data, there's some support for the things that we say we love. And for me, coaching is something that I truly love. So yeah, it just feels like natural. I've always been that way, always looking to, one, figure out the things that I don't know, but be in community with others who can also share with me so that I'm able to take and also to receive. So
What's
it works.
out of all these programs that you've done, what was like a favorite learning? What's the one that you were like, man, I'm so glad I did this.
I will say my calling, and I feel my first love is coaching. And so early on, I think in my bio, I have that I spent some time in the Maxwell leadership. So John
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell has the leadership enterprise. And I was fortunate enough to, with a group of coaches under the Maxwell team, to travel to different countries and to facilitate and teach leadership development. And it was there that I really connected with what I feel is my why and what I feel is the passion for really everything that I do. I bring all of those experiences and the love of connecting with people with me everywhere I go, and particularly in the Vistage community.
And sometimes with a lot of times with Visage chairs, this is their second, sometimes third career.
Mhm.
They and the common version of the story is that they were they were running a business, or they were an executive, and something happened where they said, hey, how time to do something different. And and being a Vista chair was like a way to kind of give back. But you've got kind of an interesting perspective, being that you were already somebody who was doing that,
Mhm.
and what made you decide that being a Vistage chair was an additional cool way that you could do that.
What I would say is, I have a heart for servant leadership. And again, I connected in the time and spaces when I was able to travel and, have some global impact, right? But again, that's on a global scale. And so what happens for me in Vistage is they have like this perfect alignment with, peer learning, in addition to executive coaching, and being able to have more of a personal impact for me is what has resonated with me and helped me to feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So
What's your
I would say, yeah, that's the difference.
what's your coaching style like, and has the Vistage format caused you, do you have to evolve or change the way that you typically approach coaching a business person now versus in your own practice?
So I would say my coaching style is my approach is more a holistic approach, right? So we know that in Vistage, a lot of what we're doing is really helping leaders, empowering them to, grow their businesses, but then also to really think, be reflective on who they are as leaders and how they're showing up and how people are experiencing them. So I go from a perspective of one, being a participative party, and, a thinking partner with them to think through some of the bigger challenges, like some of the complex issues that they're dealing with, but then also having questions specifically around, well, how are you being? How are you showing up? Like, who are you, and who were you being when these things were occurring? So I try to look at it, and for me, that aligns perfectly with everything that I've learned in the Vistage community as well. So there's no um, I'm true to the ICF, code of ethics and the things that are important for our members to know and my clients to know, right? Creating a safe space, making sure there's confidentiality. Those things are across both organizations. What I can say though, from a Vistage perspective, is it gives me even more insight. I again try to stay in communities where I'm constantly thinking about how I am also showing up as a coach, but it supports me in, one, thinking about like deep diving the conversations and really getting to something that we always talk about in Vistage, which is issue processing and really getting to the core of what is going on with each of the clients.
And you've got two groups. One that's still baking, as I understand it. You're building a key executive group, and then you have launched a small business group.
Correct.
And the small business groups are relatively, there aren't a ton of them. So what do you think is the really cool part about having a small business group? And of course, everybody is, got the chief executive groups. Everybody's got the. What made you start a small business group first?
What I love about the small business group leader, the business owner, the presidents, the CEOs of the founding companies that they're starting, is that they're on the ground trying to figure out how best do I position myself to scale this business and to grow it. In many instances, what is the next level of growth going to look like? So being able to work with them in a way that helps them, one, put the foundational um, aspect of their business in place to ensure that they're solid and ready for, what growth looks like. So being able to support them in a way that helps them move things into the future and helps them move forward is one of the things that I would say, really helped me to lean
Absolutely.
into the importance of supporting small business.
What was the process like for you of starting your first group?
I would say, um, if I were to choose three words, I would say, was exhilarating, one, to be able to get beyond the journey of the constant outreach and, connecting with leaders to help show the value of Vistage and bring them into what could be
Right.
a mutual relationship. So that part, I would also say feeling the feelings of being humble, right? Because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about what it means to, reach out and have the cold conversations
Yeah,
to make sure, one, that you're building a group that's going to really
yeah.
support the whole of everyone in the group.
And,
So
and
it's
I
always top of
understand that
mind
many
of
of
building
you
trust.
And I understand that many of you in the process of finding humility also get told no quite a bit, which is which can
I
be
always say no for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. So yes, it can be, but I think that, very often you talk with a lot of people, but I'm a real firm believer on the people that are in the room are the people that are supposed to be in the room. And
that's
so yeah, you talk with a lot of people and maybe, some people understand the value and some may not. But the people that truly understand the value and gain the greatest benefit from participating and being in this community, and even more than that, being committed to themselves, really do love and appreciate what Vistage has to offer.
I love the way you said that, by the way. That's really terrific. That the people who are in the room are the ones that are supposed to be in the room,
Supposed to be in the room, absolutely.
and at 100%, that's amazing. The other thing that you have been able to achieve with the people that you have put in your room is that you've got quite a bit of diversity in your first group. You've got equal representation between men and women in your group, or roughly equal. That's tremendous.
Yeah, one of the things when I first came to Vistage, one of the things when, talking with my best practice chair and other like the business development partners, and now, it's like, hey, for me, what's really important, I want to value every voice, and I want to also make sure that, in terms of inclusivity, that's huge for me. I want to ensure one that the group represents every voice and, as many voices as
Absolutely.
possible to support, you know, and provide different perspectives. And so what I do feel blessed about is that we have had an opportunity to build just that. Um, and definitely representative of, 50-50 split, which is uncommon, but
It is, and I do think that it's changing, and I have talked to a couple of chairs that either had, roughly 50-50, or we did talk to one that had actually a majority of females, which I thought was just spectacular.
Mhm.
But it's hard to go to. I mean, anybody who's been to a Vistage event can't help but notice the fact that there are typically a lot more men in the room.
Yes.
And I think that that's shifting, which is really terrific. But obviously, your commitment to bringing that to the table, and having that as a core value of what you're doing is obviously really important.
Absolutely. And what you said, I think, is key is that it is changing. I've had so many women in particular to reach out to me with interest because they understand or they see the value in wanting to be in a community like this. So for sure, it's changing.
You also in the email materials that you sent over, you also mentioned that the diversity of not only gender but age in your groups was really important to you. Do you mind talking about that really quickly for a moment?
Sure. Yeah. So we've had, let's see, age, I would say about our youngest member is about 26.
Oh, wow.
Mature is, in his 60s.
That's a heck of a
So
range.
it is a heck of a range, yes. But it's a beautiful one, right? Because when you hear from just the diversity of thought, it is amazing. Very often we're having conversations and just, someone can completely shift a thought in sharing, well, how about if we looked at it like this? And it completely changes the entire room and it's very clear that something has shifted. So there's great value there.
In terms of the makeup of your groups, are there types of businesses that tend to succeed, or is there anything else that would immediately speak to you as saying this would be a great member for us?
What I would say is, obviously it's non-competing
Right.
industries, right? And so we definitely have that represented. What I see is and have experienced is that our members are open, they're growth minded, they're very supportive of each other. They're willing, the ego is left at the door, but they're really willing to you know hear and listen deeply to what each other is saying and be of great support to each other. So I always ask the question, what are you willing to give and what are you, taking from the group? And I try to keep that top of mind, and we're always thinking about that. So anyone coming in that's has been successful in the group is really someone who's thinking about, business growth, specifically what is next, how should I be thinking about this, making sure they're formalizing their processes, their systems to make sure they're ready for growth and being really serious about that, being committed to it. So, for me, it would be, yeah, someone is open-minded and looking to grow personally and professionally.
That's huge. It's not just about business for sure. When and you mentioned before that you've got that one of the things that's core to you is having this long-term commitment to learning and constant learning. And that's
Mhm.
also really important in the Vistage community. And so the Vistage groups have speakers multiple times a year to teach members about specific topics. Now, I ask this knowing that I have not spoken to your group, but who's your favorite speaker? Who really like got people's heads turned on in a way that no one else has for you?
Here's what I will say about that question in particular. Thanks for asking that question, Eric. But what I would say is honestly, I try to, you know, speak with my members to figure out like what do we need now?
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I'm always going to bring a speaker. I listen closely to what the challenges and opportunities are. And I'm going to bring a speaker that's going to support, that time and space. So it's the speaker that we need right now, which is always the best speaker. Yes, for me, I would say that I don't think we've missed an opportunity to have a great speaker for the challenges and opportunities that we are currently experiencing. Every speaker that we've had so far has been the best speaker because that
Well, there you
person is
go.
needed at that moment.
I that's a that is a terrific and also quite diplomatic answer, and I appreciate it. What would you say is and learning once again, but in your latest journey as a Vistage chair, what has this process of doing this taught you?
It has taught me to be mindful of what vulnerability truly looks like and the importance of creating a safe space where we can all, thrive and share. Here's where we truly are. I get it. And so it's taught me to one, be patient with myself, um, and one to deeply listen to what people aren't saying, and what matters most, so that we can ultimately get to that big goal. But really being um, I think is really important. So it's taught me, one several things, but patience is one thing that I would reiterate.
Last question for you, and I thank you for being patient with me. But if you had a small business owner sitting here right now and they were thinking about doing this and they're not sure, maybe it's not the best time, I don't know, haven't done this peer group thing before, it's a
Mhm.
little spendy, what what advice would you give to that person who's sort of sitting there on the fence?
Honestly, I would say if you're sitting on the fence waiting, why not move forward? Because what happens if you lean in and this is the best experience of your life? What happens if you connect with other leaders who are able to support you and to create a space where you can truly, authentically say, here are the things that I'm grappling with every single day, and gain the perspective and the wisdom and the experience of others who have also sat in the same seat. And it's definitely, I honestly cannot say there's not a time that you should hesitate. If there's something that you're thinking about doing, explore it, invest in yourself, lean in, and yeah. make sure that it's the right group for you, because and I do know this, if it's the right group for you, you're going to 10 times over, you're going to be thankful that you did lean in, that you did connect with others. And it could even be life changing, but it's an experience like none other.
And once again, the people in the room are the ones that are supposed to be in the
That
room.
should be in the room.
I
Absolutely.
I I still love that. It's been wonderful talking to you today. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody has questions about you, about Vistage, about your groups, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Sure. My email address is brenda.lawrence@vistagechair.com. You can always reach out to me via email. That's probably the best way.
Cool. And we'll link that from the show notes also so that people can
Okay.
have that. And thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Eric, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.